Hey friends, last week I took part in my first solo multi-class league race with the guys from the Limit of Adhesion. It was race 1 of a 10 race season and we were opening at Imola. Now Imola had just hosted a thrilling World Endurance Championship race in real life. Would this race be equally as thrilling? Well, it truly was awesome. One of the best races I've taken part in. It was enjoyable but also rewarding. Plenty of action happened on track and there's lots of highlights to show you. Now just like in real life with the WEC and IMSA, this field classed in 2 different types. We had the hyper cars or GTP cars as the quicker class, and then as a slower class the GT3 cars. We had 20 GTPs and 26 GT3s. So the race was going to be jam-packed with drivers. I'm driving the Porsche 963 GTP along with part Limit of Adhesion founder and my teammate Gareth Winslade. Practice has shown that this was going to be a very challenging track. It was easy to lock a brake in these GTP cars and very easy to pick up off tracks at Imola. The incident limit was only 18x, so we could see some drivers getting penalties and I didn't want to be one of those. There are difficult corner combinations at Imola, meaning that the traffic was going to have a really big influence on lap times. So with these factors, plus the fact that we had 46 cars on track, meant that even finishing the race would be some sort of an achievement. But there was no chance of rain in this race, so at least that was something. So I went out for qualifying, but this was an open session and getting clean track was difficult. I sometimes got in the way of others, but other times I did manage to get a clear lap. But when I was getting a clear lap, I wasn't putting a full lap together, I wasn't getting in the rhythm, I was getting nowhere near my personal best from practice. Then it seemed to come together in my 8th and final lap of qualifying. I crossed the line with a 1 minute 31.220, still a way off my personal best, but respectable. Instead of being right at the back of the grid, we were now up into P15. It could have been a lot worse, and my trusty teammate was sitting in the row behind in P17. So we started the pace lap here, wondering what was going to occur in the opening laps. Chris Forrester here in the 47 car, he at times had proven to be quite a quick guy and a formidable opponent. He was going to have a role to play in the beginning of this race, and certainly his desire was to get ahead of us, starting just behind. Also a bit further up we had Gavin Kelly, who is a super consistent driver with experience in doing well in lots of different cars. At times he finds himself battling right at the front of the pack. Now Gavin was going to have a big role to play in this race and he'll drift in and out of this race, but stick around because he makes a very strong appearance right at the end. I won't give away too much there. His desire obviously was to stay ahead of me and it would be very difficult getting past Gavin. But my concerns now turns to the opening few corners of Imola. There's always an incident here at the beginning of Imola in the first chicane, and that was a big worry and could be a big problem to our race. The pace car was off. It looked like the leaders had gone, but they hadn't. I almost got caught out on this one and I got very close to causing an incident straight away. That would have been hugely embarrassing, but they were then off. We managed to get through the first chicane clean and formed up single file, but then I noticed just ahead as we go into Villeneuve I see a 2 wide. Then all of a sudden one car is around. I took avoiding action and headed off track. This was the right call. Heading up the hill, a full course yellow is called automatically by iRacing and the safety car comes out. Now, this is something I've not experienced ever in iRacing, a safety car called by the game in a road race. It's quite impressive to see how iRacing handles this sort of crash, and it certainly was needed because there were plenty of cars blocked in that incident. So what happened in that crash? Well, you can see here that the number 44 car, driven by David Dugapecki, spins on cold tyres from P5. Now 3 cars managed to get past fine, but the 39 of Zhao Tome netcode hits the stationary car of David. James Renwick in the pink car also makes it past, but the BMW of Michael Messenger is left with nowhere to go. The wreck continues with other cars, including my teammate, and then the GT3 leaders arrive. The stricken 44 had to stop on track and then was very slow at getting away. This, along with 2 other cars that were caught up in a crash further back in the GT field, brings out the caution. So we had to do a double file restart, another double filed start. Again, more danger lay ahead of us. The incident had put me up to P13, but Chris was now ahead of me. The pace car was off a second time. I decided to be a bit more careful on this start. I protected the inside. Chris left the door open and did well not to pull across my nose. This time there was no drama as we headed through the opening 2 chicanes. But then as we climbed near the top of the hill, James Renwick loses it in front of us. Thankfully, I was able to ease off and wait for a gap. This puts us up to P12. The next few laps go by and I use that to settle into the race, but it became apparent quite quickly that we were quicker than Chris. But with this being Imola, it was difficult to get past. Gavin had dropped back to P10. Then, all of a sudden, at the chicane, Chris locks up right at the top of the hill. I get the drive needed out of the corner to pull alongside, and we were able to make a pass down into Rivazzi. This felt good, but thankfully Chris gave plenty of room. I was happy to make the pass. It's such a difficult track for overtaking. The gap to Gavin remained about 3 seconds. Traffic on lap 10 meant we closed up to under a second. This period of the race was so busy it was quite scary, but the GT3 drivers did so well. I found they all allowed the right amount of room and were very respectful to my race. However, the traffic giveth and the traffic takeawayeth, as they say. Well, I think someone says. This meant we weren't able to keep that close gap with Gavin, and the gap began to open up. As the gap to Gavin grew, a new challenger called us. Remember the incident at the start of the race? Well, Michael Messenger had been held up and had to pit under the safety car. It was quite clear very quickly that Messenger was quicker. But at this stage of the race, I didn't want to lose time. I didn't want to get held up. I didn't want that gap to extend even further to Gavin. We were maintaining it quite well. Now, Messenger and I have often had a battle together. Sometimes he is round about my pace where I can compete with him. Quite often he's quicker than me, but here, in this situation, he clearly wanted to get past. As we hit traffic, he takes a fantastic opportunist move into Tosa and gets past. I was in awe at this move. I wasn't expecting it. He did so well and deserved the position. Lap 18 saw me make the best decision of the race, and this is the bit of the race that I'm most proud of. I see Messenger and Gavin are starting to battle, and they're slowed by the GT3 traffic. At the same time, I could see that a GT3 car was just recovering from running deep into the gravel trap at Rivazza. So, with this in mind, and knowing that there was going to be heavy traffic on the next lap, I took the chance and pit early. Now, I believed at this point that we were in the window of the pit stop here, gone past the 30-minute mark of this 1.5 hour race. Dan Hill makes the same call right in front of me. He's pitting from P7, so it shows that we had gained a massive amount on this lap. This was putting us in position to make some moves in the race. Now, I lost a few seconds because I missed my pit box. No. 1/3 of the way through. Got an hour to go. No, there was a crash. And brought out the safety car. Just missed my pit box though there. But after filling up and taking tyres, we come out into a relatively clean track. Now was the time to put in clean, fast laps. Although we would drop down to P18, one by one the drivers started the pit. We were up to P17, P16, P15, 14 and then 13. Now at the start of lap 23, we passed Gavin and Messenger on pit exit. This puts us up to P11. By the end of the lap, we're right with Dan Hill and Zhao Tomi, who are in 9th and 10th. Later, at the end of the lap, this would become P10 for us as Chris Wright takes his stop. I'm so happy that this strategic call worked out. We gained 2 positions and now we're right in the battle for P8. If you want to see the awesomeness of this race, then check out this next section. 4-way battle going on here. As you can see, the front of our battle, Dan Hill gets held up, but manages to get past quite easily, exiting the chicane. I follow through behind Zhao, but it does compromise my line. Then we all need to get past the Mercedes GT3. I take the same wide line as Zhao, but they almost come together. I hesitate, and in that moment I lose some time. This throws me back into the clutches of Messenger. But with the traffic, there's no room for him to pass. Pretty awesome stuff, really. As we come to the end of lap 28, Dan Hill suddenly pulls into the pits. Now he got a penalty for too many incidents, and this moves us up one more spot. Now on lap 28, we could no longer hold Messenger back any further, and he manages to get past us again. So that drops us back one more position. On lap 31, Gavin makes an error and he drops back further. We tick off the laps quickly and kept close to the Messenger and Zhao Tomi battle ahead. Now Zhao is a super quick driver, very, very fast. In fact, in the IndyCar race 2 weeks ago, in a really strong field, he got the fastest lap, and he was a tough competitor in the LMP3 championship we did earlier this year. Obviously his desire was going to be wanting to beating me today. Now heading up the hill, coming to the chicane, their battle really starts to get intense as they go 3 wide, and they both overshoot the chicane. This really brings me back into this battle that's going on. I can sense that something is about to happen as I start to push to close the gap. At the end of lap 35, Messenger passed Zhao, and Zhao pits early. I decide to stay on track as it looks clear. This puts us back up to P9. Now this leaves me for a moment briefly behind Messenger. I was hopeful that he would clear the way through the traffic for us. On lap 38, I see some traffic ahead and I decide to take my final pit stop. On the exit of the pit stop, there's no sign of Zhao. What happened to him? Well, it turns out Zhao also had too many incidents, so when he took that pit stop, he had to serve a penalty as well, just like Dan, meaning he lost a chunk of time. Now I take a very optimistic outlook, and this is the point in the race where I make that error that often happens to us. At the top of the hill, I'm caught in two minds. Do I push and go past Clayton, or do I hold back at the chicane? Now I make the wrong decision. I push to go past, and I lose it on cold tyres on the curb. But this spin doesn't cost me any position, but it does cost me important amount of time. We lose around 8 seconds, and Gavin still is up the road yet to pit. At the start of lap 40, we spot Rob Miller exiting the pits. Now Rob was well up ahead in the race. Something clearly had gone wrong, so now I'm starting to think, well, do I need to think about getting past Rob? As soon as I finished that thought, Rob loses it at the chicane. It probably was that he was suffering damage, and although it's hard seeing another competitor crash like this, it does give us another position. On lap 43, Gavin exits the pits. He has a 6-second lead on us, so clearly with our spin and maybe with traffic, we've lost time to him. But as he's only just ahead, there is a chance that we can gain P8. Then this part of the race, I sort of enter a zone. I slowly chip away at Gavin's lead. 6 seconds becomes 5. 5 seconds becomes 4. 4 becomes 3. 3 becomes 2. 2, 1. I'm feeling in the zone. The car feels the quickest it's ever been in the whole race, and I'm starting to set my fastest lap. Now at this point, it's important to note that both Gavin and I are a lap down. Merrin is just ahead. That's important to note for later in the race. But I just can't get close enough to Gavin's car in order to make a move. On that 48, at the top of the hill, Gavin makes an error. I feel that there's going to be an opportunity now, but the next lap, traffic helps him out. At the start of lap 51, there's only 5 laps to go, and traffic helps me to get very close to Gavin, but he does not make a mistake, and the gap stays around half a second. until I then hit traffic again and it starts to grow. At the end of lap 54, Gavin is held up. Surely this is going to be the opportunity. Well, I'll let you see for yourself with my onboard as we take the white flag. Then Merrin, the leader, is off. This slows Gavin as we pass Merrin. More importantly, it puts us both back on the lead lap. It looks like we're going to get another lap of this battle. Then, Gavin gets caught behind David Ward in a GT3 in the final turns. We're so close to him out of the final turn. Can we make a pass into turn 1? But the checkered flag is out and the race is over. I'm sure in real life the leader has to check the checkered flag first, but that's not the case here, so maybe it's an iRacing thing. But wow, I'm truly satisfied with this race. Exhausted, but very satisfied. I couldn't be more happier to finish the race and not get a penalty. And to finish the race really on the lead lap, although the results, as you'll see, classed us a lap down. We passed Merrin, so we were back on the lead lap. Well, it has to be said it was a great comeback by Gavin. He held his cool despite the pressure. What an awesome race this was. It was so much fun and it was multi-class racing at its best. Well done to all who took part, particularly the GT3 drivers. They were fantastic. I hope they enjoyed the race as much as I did. But in terms of results, well, here are the results. We started P15, we finished P9. I'm really happy with that and the 7 championship points that we gained. Well done to Merrin, who won despite his little off-track excursion at the end, and to Ollie, who won in the GT3s. Now this kind of racing is going to continue for the rest of the year, and I'm sure we're going to have battles with these drivers again. The next race is at Spa and I can't wait. I hope you join me for that video. But reflecting on the race, yes, it could have been P8, but P9 is fantastic. Especially given the fears that we had going in, the fears about the track and how difficult it was, how easy it was to pick up incident points and the wrecks that happened and how we avoided them. Also, the amount of passes we had to do through the GT3 traffic, and we did so without any incident. Lessons for me, well, qualifying is clearly an area that I need to improve as the season goes on. I need to be able to get into that rhythm quicker and hit those lap times whilst dealing with the traffic. And the error really taught me that I need to have that right mindset on my out lap. I thought I needed a push to try and get ahead of Zhao, but as it turns out, I didn't. Zhao had a penalty, so that was not an issue. Really, I should have been thinking more about cold tyres and being careful on them. That said though, the strategic calls I made were really good. They were spot on, and my driving through traffic seemed to be to a good standard. So that should help me in the coming races. Really, this is the best kind of racing right now. Formula 1 has become too dominated by one driver, but the WEC and IMSA, in real life that is the best viewing, and in sim racing it is certainly the best thing to take part in. If you've not tried multi-class racing, give it a go. And if you've not tried league racing, well, now is the time really to find a league and find some like-minded individuals, drivers that you can get to know, drivers that you can get to trust, such as the ones here in the Limit of Adhesion, and you'll have the best kind of racing. So thank you for watching this video. It's been a different kind of video for me. Why have I done this one as just my POV recording? Well, since the last update at the beginning of this iRacing season, I haven't been able to record multi-class racing. My system can't cope with it. It can't cope with the different types of cars on track. And it certainly can't cope when there's 46 cars on track as well. Also, I've set a goal to try and improve my editing skills. So I wanted to give that a try. So you may see future videos like that. But that's going to be largely up to you and how you react to this video. Before I conclude, a massive shout out to Danny Lee. His video on his experience of the Sebring 12 hour really inspired this one. But also shout out to Ben LaBrocca, Damien Cross and Chris Rogers, who I'm sure they'll recognise some elements of their videos in this one. I really like to know what you think of this sort of style of video from me. Let me know in the comments, or if you've not got a comment, just hit that like button. In the meantime, I will leave you with something else that I think you'll enjoy watching.